this week. Google is all over the news for their crackdown on return to the office. And it was just, again, one of these things where I'm like, what are you doing? Now, at first, I thought, well, maybe Google didn't perform that well. Maybe they had a really bad year. And this is because whenever this happens, you always see the conspiracy theories of, this is tied to corporate real estate. And, this is the big real estate investors trying to force people back in to renew their contracts and blah, 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 blah. I think that's a factor. Sure. It's absolutely a factor. I don't think it's as much of a smoking gun as a lot of people think. I see the things that it's like, oh, this is just companies are trying to downsize proactively, and they're doing this as a way to force people out rather than actually do the hard work. Yes, that is also a factor. I'm not going to say it's not a factor. But again, I don't think it's the smoking gun that it's often represented to be. I think, really what we're seeing, because the way Google positioned it, which I wrote about it this week, because just the way they said it, that they were like, we've determined that the optimal formula for peak performance is in-office work 60 hours a week. And I seriously just wanted to sit down with who came up with this statistic and let me see the data behind this. I really want to see how you concluded this. Like, I've got a million follow-up questions for what does optimal performance mean? How are you factoring that? How did you determine in-office versus out of office? How are you delineating between meaningful activity and useless activity? Does that 60 hours include drive time? Does it include lunches? Is that pure focused work time? So, and it's not that I expect people to always do that level of diligence in this, but when you conclusively state from the stage, in the presses, everything, we have determined this is the formula. That formula better stand up to some real scrutiny. And from what I could determine from digging into this, it wouldn't hold up to any of it. So I do think, so just be careful with that kind of stuff. If you are a leader that is maybe doing more, bringing people back into the office, I'm not an anti-office person. I personally won't participate in it, but I'm not opposed to it. But just be really careful when you make this kind of stuff, because it just makes you look silly. It really does. When you say this kind of stuff from the stage so confidently, you look like a fool when people are like, you didn't do any research to actually validate this. Prove it. And you can't, because you didn't. So don't do that kind of stuff. But I think the part that, is probably a really big factor right now, there is a lot of uncertainty. And if I've seen anything, when things get uncertain, people tend to gravitate towards what they're most comfortable with. I honestly think this is probably more what's going on than anything else. Companies are freaking out a little bit just in general. If you listened last week, leadership trust is at an all-time low. People are freaking out about the implications of tariffs. UPS just slashed a bunch of jobs because they're anticipating nobody's going to order off Amazon anymore. Everybody's just really, really, really nervous. And so you could try and blame those things, or you could go, okay, well, all those things are creating anxiety and uncertainty for people. And when people are anxious and uncertain, they tend to cling to what's most familiar to them. So I fully anticipate a lot of what we're seeing right now is people just feeling really, really unsettled, and bringing people into an office, seeing them working, feeling like when I look around, I feel better about the environment. I feel like it's more certain. I feel more comfortable with it. That can be very, very appealing. And I don't think we always appreciate that a lot of decisions are made that way. So yes, might real estate costs be affecting it? Yeah, sure. Might trying to get, more margins out of things be a factor? I have no doubt it's factoring into that. But let's not ignore the fact that senior executives, CEOs, like all these people, they're humans too. And when things start getting really unsettled and they feel like things are out of control, they gravitate towards what's comfortable to them. And if what's comfortable to them is having a bunch of people nearby that they can look and see and feel comfortable that work is happening, and they say nice things to them and they feel good about their environment, it gives a false sense of security. And I think that's the risk which actually ties back to the very first point that I made today with reasoning models and human feedback, is it can be very, very deceptive. So reflect back on what I said earlier in the podcast, that humans telling AI, yeah, that is good. I like that. That feels good. It's actually training AI to give the wrong answer in a more confident way. Well, the same is true in an office environment. Yeah, I get if you're a senior leader, you may feel better when people are around and they're making you feel good about the work getting done and you can see the work happening and they're telling you they, enjoy being here and thank you for, all that you're doing for this. Yeah, but it actually also may be insidiously rotting at the core and you're not even seeing it. And so you need to be really, really mindful of that. And I think the other advice, the final advice, and then I'll conclude, is to the employees who may be in a situation where something like this happens. Okay. And I know I've given this advice before, but I know I've got new folks who listen in all the time. Don't panic when this kind of stuff happens. Don't let this hijack your amygdala and send you off the deep end. I get it can be a little scary, sure. It may sound like this is inevitable. I have seen these things rolled back more times than I can count. Sure, they're offering buyouts and saying you have till this date and then buyout. Don't be the first one to sign that paperwork. Okay, that's just the one thing I will say. Wait as long as humanly possible. If you decide this isn't what I want to do, wait it out, see how it goes. But the other thing is, do what you can to try and encourage the leaders and the people around you to see that things are okay. Reduce their anxiety level. Help them feel comfortable about the environment they're in, because the reality is, I'm telling you, human discomfort and anxiety fuels more of this stuff than most people realize. And nobody wants to talk about it because it's like embarrassing to say, I just want to bring people back into the office because I'm a little insecure. You're not going to hear a CEO or a C-suite exec ever say that from the stage, which is really unfortunate because I wish they would, because then we could actually deal with the problem. But you're never going to hear them say, it just makes me feel bad when I come into an empty office. I feel like I'm failing. Makes me question how valuable I am as a leader. Okay. And if you say, well, Christopher, that's ridiculous, nobody thinks it. Yeah, they do. And I know because I hear it in coaching sessions all the time. So if you can help reduce the anxiety, if you can help make people feel more calm, they're less likely to make stupid moves like this. And I know last week I was a little hard on employees related to the leadership thing, saying, don't just point your fingers at the leader. Recognize we're in this situation also because of your contributions. The same is true with this. If you are not contributing to helping keep things calm, helping show that, hey, work is still getting done, helping being proactive in doing the things that give people that comfort level in the office, in a non-office environment, you are actually contributing to this problem. And that's just the reality of things. So be aware of it, not that you can fix it, but so that you can be part of the solution instead of, well, you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. There really is no middle ground. So wouldn't you rather be part of the solution?